Welcome to day 132 of the 300 Movie Challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of May 2005, which was Star Wars Revenge of the Sith.
Finally! God, it's been forever!
Oh yeah, it's been a very long time.
I remember I looked like when we actually watched like Attack of the Clones, and it was like something like half a year ago. It's like ridiculous in terms of this. It's
Oh
so
my
long.
God. Oh yeah.
Ugh.
Holy crap.
Anyway, I'm gonna shut up about any opinions, and I'm gonna let you guys talk for a bit.
Well, as per usual, Padme was...
She wasn't really even there for most
She was
of
a
it.
cardboard cutout.
Like, uh, she was there to conceive Luke and Leia, and then she was there to be sad, and then she was there to die. That was her role the whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time. And to, I don't know why, but her nickname for Anakin just drives me crazy. It's
What was the
Annie.
nickname? Oh yeah.
Annie. And I'm just like, why would you call him that still? He's not 10.
I mean, as is their age difference. Their age difference would have been fine if they met when they were older, but then seeing him as like a tiny baby-faced, like
Like a
8 years
literal baby. Yeah, it's wrong. And it's kind of funny because, like, now he looks older than her, but she's
Yeah.
definitely still like 4 or 5 years older than him.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's what's even weirder is that like Anakin is supposed to be like our age.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's supposed to be 23 in this
So-
movie.
Wait, so Padme is like 27 or
Yeah.
28? No.
Yep.
She does not look
She looks
28.
15 still.
Yeah. She like never aged. She drank from the fountain of youth and never aged. It's oh my God, it's so weird.
It's weird because in the first one, it's like you can tell she's the older one and he's like baby-faced, but then in the third one, it's like reversed. And all of a sudden she looks 15 and then he looks like, I don't know, like in his early 20s or something. And it's just like, what happened?
If anything, at least Attack of the Clones, they seem to be about the same age.
Yeah, at least. Even though he had the stupid haircut.
The one thing they did right.
Even though he had the stupid haircut and stuff.
Yeah.
Younglings.
I will say, at the very least, that, oh man, I lost my train of thought when you said young. Hey, what was my train? Oh, no. At least she didn't have really, like, weird, obnoxious, like, outfits this time around. I mean, they were still really strange, and I don't know why she went to bed with those pearls and stuff, because I'm sure that was not very comfortable, but they weren't as ridiculous as the first film.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, complaining about Padme and Anakin's weird romance aside. This was definitely the best of the prequel movies. Like, there's no doubt about that, because as we had discussed in the past, the first one is irrelevant, even though baby Anakin is really cute. And the second,
wanted to adopt him.
yeah, and the second one is just kind of bad.
It's
This
like,
movie is at least okay.
yeah. Mainly, I really appreciate Obi-Wan in this
Yeah,
movie a lot.
yeah, I would say.
No, I don't think that's much of a surprise to
He-
most people.
He and Yoda were definitely my favorite parts. Like when Yoda was like fighting, I was just like, yes, Yoda.
And R2 and C-3PO.
We didn't see much of them either, actually. It's sad.
We saw a lot of R2 in the beginning, but not so much near the middle and end. And then C-3PO only had like small cameo appearances.
I remember in the very beginning, like when they were doing the heist, I was like, there was a lot of weirdly timed humor. It
Yeah.
wasn't bad, but it was kind of funny.
No, it's
Like-
kind of weird because like in terms of themes and like especially the end of the movie, like this is like the darkest movie, but there's a lot of like goofy moments in it, especially
Yeah.
the beginning, that like I feel like they have to be in, like at least especially the beginning, like that's intentional, but like not all of it's intentional. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like there's this weird kind of goofiness to him, which it's I honestly kind of like it because like
Yeah.
Attack of the
I
Clones was like
appreciate it,
so
yeah.
stiff and like didn't have that at all. It was just it drag it down so much. So I think it helps, and it's not just
Yeah.
obnoxious like because like Jar Jar. So
Yeah.
It was
On that
just, I
note,
think it was just, I felt a little bit caught off guard, but like in a good way.
yeah. They I know some of the unintentional humor also came with how some people delivered their lines.
Oh, yeah. Do it.
do it.
And then Palpatine, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but he never puts his hands just like down. It's always like he's a kangaroo or something. They're
He's always holding his own hands. So weird.
yeah, like he's either holding his own hands or they're like raised like he's like a zombie or like a kangaroo or something. It's very strange.
I feel like Palpatine really hammed it up in this
Yes.
movie, and
Yes.
I don't know if it was supposed to be unintentionally funny or if it was supposed to be menacing.
No, Palpatine
Probably
is
the latter, but
Palpatine is great in this movie. He's so entertaining.
Yeah, definitely.
Like he was honestly, he's decently entertaining in the other two movies as well, but he does like not that much screen time. Here he's like a big focus and he's just so damn enjoyable to watch. He's just like unlimited power and shit. It's just like, oh my god, it's great. Palpatine is fucking great. Like he's honestly he's my favorite character from these movies. Just because he's so damn entertaining. I can't help it.
Oh my god.
my god. It's like watching Hades in like the Hercules movie.
Oh
You're just
yeah.
like, oh my god. It's great.
Too good.
Any other comments before I go into
Um,
stuff?
Oh, wait. I know something that Mayan will probably definitely want to mention. You got to finally see the Wookiees.
Yes.
The planet.
When we got to the Wookiee planet part, I was so happy, and I was like, when Yoda was leaving, he was like, "Goodbye," like I guess chief of the whole planet, and then he said, "Goodbye, Chewbacca," and I was like, "It's Chewbacca!" Everyone loves Chewbacca,
Yeah.
so I thought that was kind of nice, and to see the Wookiee armor too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh wait, actually, before Valen starts, just one small tiny note that Valen told us during the movie, where what is the official name of that lizard thing? Does it have an official
I
name?
don't remember. It's on Utapau, the lizard that Obi-Wan rides.
Yeah, that.
Oh yeah.
Do you want me to
So
say
as
it?
you
Or...
As you guys
should
know,
say it.
we're all Pokemon fans, so
Okay, yeah,
If
so
it hasn't already been evident.
I don't remember the first time I watched this, but at some point I was like watching some of the more recent Pokemon movies, and I was watching the Darkrai movie. And the Darkrai movie, the main premise is that like Dialga and Palkia are fighting, and it's causing weird shit to happen, and then like Darkrai is trying to stop them, and blah blah whatever. But when I was watching this movie, I'm like, there's a noise that I keep like I'm like, what is that noise? I've heard it before. And so I finally realized Palkia's noise in that movie is the same as that lizard's noise in this movie. It's the same, that like kind of noise. It's the same noise. It's so weird. Because it's so distinct, right? Because Dialga has a kind of generic, like, kind of noise. That probably sounded
Yeah.
horrible. But, like, it's so odd of, like, a thing this... Because, like, honestly, the Dialga noise is probably taken from something else, too. But it's such, like, a normal kind of, monster kind of growl kind of thing that you wouldn't notice. But this is so distinct that it's like, what? It's just like such a weird decision, and now I'm just like, oh, it's so weird. I can't. It's odd. But,
Oh, okay, look this up on like the Wikia. In the anime, Palkia's roar is a mix of Godzilla and King something roars plus Boga from Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith. So
See?
it's been confirmed.
because again, it's so distinct. I'm like, it's just really weird. But yeah.
All that aside.
And release the floodgates.
Okay. So as you guys said, this is definitely the best one.
Mhm.
But it definitely still has problems.
It does still have problems, but at least in the end, it's okay.
Yeah. The dialogue's still pretty bad.
Sometimes hilariously.
Yeah,
so.
sometimes hilariously bad. Sometimes it's alright.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, there's still really bad lines with, like, Anakin and Padme. Like,
And
In
then
general,
no!
just Anakin, really. Just in general, Anakin.
yeah, Anakin in general just doesn't work in terms of, like, saying things.
The
But
actor was also really bad.
yeah, well, okay, I'm gonna defend him very slightly because I'm gonna say that
Okay.
when he doesn't have to speak, it's fine.
Yeah.
He's very good at the fight scenes.
He's
I
good
will
at
say
that, and he's good at, like, facial expressions.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
that,
like when
again,
he went to full angst mode at the end of the thing, he was glaring a lot.
yeah, and the
stuff.
thing is, like, I don't think that's his fault, I think that's the directing fault, right?
Yeah.
So it's that he got bad
Probably.
directing and bad writing, so I think that's more of a problem than him being a bad actor, but,
Yeah, it's
so,
true.
you know, but again, it's not, in terms of a product in the movie, yeah, it doesn't end up working very well. So that doesn't work. Yeah, Padme is not that great, but honestly, she's kind of irrelevant here for most of it.
Yeah.
I don't know why they went through the whole, like, oh, she lost the will to live thing at the end. It's like, why didn't you just have
Yeah, I was
it?
gonna
Why
bring
didn't you
that
just
up,
have it
too.
so that, like, Anakin just, like, killed her, kind of? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, why
like-
didn't you actually have that as the part of the story? Because that actually, like, I
I
feel like that's
mean,
more
there-
interesting.
Plenty of movies where it's like the mom is dying and she's still able to give birth, which is
Yeah.
I don't even want to try imagining how much pain and suffering that is. But it's like there are Bollywood movies that start off with that as like the main thing that goes on and stuff. So it's like I don't understand why they had to end her on such a whimper.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense she has to die, but again, it's like, again, they should have just had it that, like, Anakin, you know, maybe didn't kill her outright, but, like, you know, basically...
Like she was dying from her wounds
Yeah.
that he inflicted on her.
Yeah, like that, it makes sense. You don't have to change anything with the movie. Just cut that little scene where that robot's like, oh, she lost the will to live. Just cut that, and everything else, it makes sense. You don't need to go any
Yeah.
further. So that's just
Yeah.
kind of a weird decision. But,
That too, why would she lose her will to live when she has no two children?
because she's so in love with Anakin, and now Anakin's gone. Can't
No,
you see
Annie.
how much in love they are?
Annie! That's where you really know the dedication comes in.
Actually, another thing that I kind of just realized, and I don't know how I, like, didn't pick this up before.
Mhm.
When Padme first shows up in this movie, she looks like normal, but then like all of a
Oh,
but then at the
yeah.
end she gives birth. It's like, wait, so this movie takes place over the span of 9 months?
Oh, yeah!
Like,
Yeah,
what?
it's
It
kinda
feels like
like
it takes the
how-
span of like a week. How do you
It's
get
kinda
9
like-
months?
I noticed, I remember during like the first third of the movie, we saw her like the second time and I was like, wait a minute. When we saw her previously, she didn't have a bump.
No.
Now, like, the night afterward, she has a bump.
And it's not
That's
even
not how it works.
and it's not even like they do like one time jump, because you see it get bigger too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just weird. It's like, what? How? What are they doing for the other like weeks that like we're not seeing them? It's just weird.
They're just chilling, they're having a picnic, maybe a baby shower
I
was
mean, I
planned.
don't know. It's like it's like, yeah, obviously they're not going to show like every single waking minute of these characters' lives, but it's like it feels like there were, you know what I mean? It just doesn't seem to work in terms of
They
timeline.
they didn't sell the fact that more than a couple of days passed.
Yeah.
No.
Especially for stuff like, well, the whole fucking movie, honestly. The only thing I could really think of would be, like, once they, like, get off of Grievous's ship and, like, land and go through that beginning thing, then it could, like, take a while because there's a whole thing about they have to, like, figure out where Grievous is or whatever. So, like, that could take a while.
Yes.
But then, like, after that, I feel like everything just has, like, a quick pace to it, and it's, like, this leads to this, leads to this, leads to this, and it's like you can't have a bunch of time in between that.
The pacing did not imply that more than a couple of days passed. I mean, like, they could make the argument that they're human-like, but maybe they might, like, give birth
in a
really
week.
quickly. But I don't think it works that way, even for alien people.
No.
So,
On a random note, I'm having a hilarious time imagining how a baby shower would have gone for them.
oh my god, yeah.
Wait, that's another point too, which was also brought up during this whole thing, which I was questioning. So Anakin keeps getting these like nightmares of Padme dying in childbirth and stuff, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
So, in this very technological society and stuff, why didn't he go to... Because I feel like a logical person would have been like, okay, let me just make sure that everything is fine and everything, and let me talk to the doctors and listen to what they say, and maybe prep, like, make things easy for her and stuff, and, like, research and everything, but he does none of those things.
Well, 'cause
They didn't even know that they were having twins.
well, yeah. No, because here's the thing. Like, okay, this is kind of getting into the talk about, like, the whole prequels. The story of the prequels is an interesting story.
Yeah.
This whole fall of the Republic, how that happens, why Anakin turns, how you actually get to an empire, and how that all happened. That is an interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not told well.
Yeah.
And so part of that is the idea that Anakin is not a very logical person. He's a very emotional person.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the issue with that is that the whole thing with the Jedi is that you're not supposed to be emotional. You're supposed to be logical, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's his initial reaction for everything, but he's constantly being suppressed, to do that. So in something like this, which is a very emotional thing, vision for him to see, he basically breaks down and doesn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it actually kind of makes sense in terms of his character. It's just that the movies are not directed in a way that you follow that chain of logic.
Right, yeah.
And honestly, that's a big problem with, like, all of these movies. Honestly, though, this movie doesn't suffer for it as much. Like, I think it's much worse in Attack of the Clones, but because it was worse in Attack of the Clones, like, the emotional weight of certain things here, like, doesn't work as well.
Right, because it's like a continuation.
Right, so it's like when you see Anakin, like, fall to the dark side, it seems really sudden.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, wait, really? It was just that, and, like, that's it? But it's like, well, no, like, I showed a video to these two after we finished, and the video, if you want to look it up, it's
we can link it.
Yeah,
in the
well,
description.
either way, it's called why the Star Wars are the Star Wars prequels secretly brilliant, and it tells the story about, like, kind of what I've been talking about in terms of how Anakin was kind of like, he had all this burden placed on him from this chosen one prophecy, but at the same time it was basically like, you have to be amazing, but then not really getting into, like, how to control that and how to work with that, and just being suppressed. And then how the other Jedi were saying that they were following that when they kind of weren't, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so it's, like, really frustrating in a sense, because especially with this movie, I could see, like, the good elements in this, and I think there are good moments. There are good moments, and there are things I like about this, but it's if anything, it's just so frustrating because it's like you were so close to this being a legitimately very good movie, and it just doesn't quite work, and it's so frustrating. But actually,
Just
one slight tangent.
Hmm?
The whole prophecy that Anakin's the Chosen One was that he was going to bring balance to the Force, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
And this movie's presented as like, oh, he failed the prophecy. But here's the thing: at the end of this movie, there are 2 Sith, Vader and Sidious, and 2 Jedi, Obi-Wan and Yoda. There's a balance.
Oh shit.
He did bring balance. It's the Jedi were way too fucking strong. If you want to argue it that way, he fulfilled his damn duty.
But we also know that at the end of like the original trilogy, he does like kill.
Yeah, he's the one who ultimately kills the Emperor, and they make it happy. But I don't even think that was intentional. Like, I just find it funny. It's like, well, he kind of did balance it. But yeah, I mean, and again, he didn't really because like they're in canon, other Jedi are still alive. Like Kanan is alive and blah, 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 whatever. But
as of right now, that
in terms
he
of
did do it.
in terms of the end of this movie, like as of May 2005, that was how it ended, and so it was like, well, he kind of did what you said.
Can't get mad at him.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's a funny thing, but yeah, I don't know. There's so many things, like small things. I don't know. I feel like I could. I am simultaneously not sure what to say and also have too much to say, and I'm just like, like what do I do?
A side rant about like just the prequels as a whole.
I mean, I kind of just said it where it's like, I have heard some ideas that like they should like kind of remake the prequels, but
yeah,
the problem is that like so many other things like the Clone Wars show and other things
they're kind of doing that already, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, like,
yeah, and then you don't want to like mess with that canon,
right?
either.
That's the problem. It's like if you have to change some things, even if you try to just focus on like maybe making the dialogue and directing better. You would change a few minor things, which would end up changing things in the show, not making sense of things. So it's just kind of like, you can't really do that, and it's annoying because. It'd be nice to have these movies be actually good because there is a good story here.
One solution that could maybe happen is if, how the Clone Wars thing was a TV show?
Mm-hmm.
And it really worked and stuff by, like, portraying that. So if they didn't go for movies, but instead they went for, like, TV shows and stuff, and they made, like, maybe, say, the first movie into season 1, and they broke it down like that. And then they would eventually, like, it would mean redoing the Clone Wars to an extent. But that would be one way to do it if they, like, rebooted that whole section.
Yes.
But
the only issue is that they've been very clear that, like, everything is, like, of equal weight in terms of canon as of, like, the Disney buyout. So, like... they couldn't really do that because then it's like, well, wait, they have this new show, but then you also have the movies kind of showing the same thing, so how does that work in terms of canon? And it's like, So, yeah, it's a difficult situation. I mean, again, in terms of the characters, the Clone Wars show does them great. Like, Anakin is, well, he's how he should be. Padme's how she should be. Obi-Wan is still good old Obi-Wan. He's fine. And they add like new stuff as well. So again, if you want to just look at like actual good character representation, that's fine. And even though of course they can't tell the exact same story as the movies, but a lot of the foundational stuff, like this kind of like, Anakin's kind of deeper philosophical like conflicts with the Jedi Order, that is like kind of seen in the Clone Wars. And you can, if you watch through the Clone Wars and then you watch Revenge of the Sith, you actually do kind of believe that this guy would turn on the Jedi. It makes sense actually in that case. It takes it off of this, it's just because of Padme, and it kind of gets into like there was all of this stuff happening, and then Padme was kind of the last straw. So
Right.
it works really well in that aspect, and yeah, it's just, I don't know. The show is really, really good. It's long. It's like 120 episodes, but it's, I don't know. Like, it, honestly, in terms of animated shows, it might be like my favorite animated show ever. And again, there are definitely some episodes that like aren't that good. Like, I wouldn't say there's anything that's like outright bad, but like there are things that like are not that great. So like I could understand, especially like season 1 is kind of overall just kind of okay. So I could see someone like starting the show might be like, oh, what's so great about it? But it's just like, no, please keep going. Like at least through like season 3, and if you still don't like it, I mean like, that's a lot. That's like, 65 episodes, but still, like, I don't know. I feel like season 3 is really when it starts to get really good, and then 4 is even better, and then 5 is even better, and then 6 is almost as good as 5. But anyway, so yeah, it's just anyway. But yeah, it's kind of funny though what they do with the show, because there's a bunch of things where like because again they have to use the prequel movies, and so for example, I mentioned this when we were watching it, when they're on Grievous's ship, Anakin says to Grievous, like, you're shorter than I expected. And so the Clone Wars, again, takes place before Revenge of the Sith. But Grievous is still around, so every single episode that had Grievous and Anakin in it, they had to make sure that they never saw each other. So you have these things where it's like every single time when like Obi-Wan and Anakin are on a ship, Obi-Wan is always the one who ends up fighting Grievous and not Anakin. And it's just like kind of ridiculous that like about how this works. And like you never notice until like someone points it out, and then you're like, wait a minute, what the hell? And it's just like super weird about that. There's other things like that too that I can't think of right now, but yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that, and it's really interesting how that all kind of came together in a way that is really nice. But yeah, I don't know. It's yeah. I don't know. There's a lot to say, but
yeah, you gotta watch the prequels to get the whole experience. So
yeah, and again, like,
or at least the show. I think.
Yeah.
I guess. Right?
Well, no, you should definitely watch these like once just to kind of know how it works. Again, like, even though Phantom Menace Attack of the Clones are not very good, like, it's not a huge waste of time. And again, seeing it just to like understand how things work. Because to be honest, looking forward, again, well, as of Solo came out somewhat recently as of recording this, and the next Star Wars movie after this is going to be Episode 9, but that's like late 2019, so this is going to be done before we end up seeing that. So, as of recording this now, basically, this is where Star Wars is in terms of films. And as of now, there isn't really that much from the prequels that matters for, like, future stuff. In terms of the movies. In terms of the shows, that's a different thing, because, like, Star Wars Rebels takes a lot of things from that, and blah, 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 whatever.
Right.
But, it still provides some context, and, like, there's something... I kind of don't want to say it, because it's vague, but there's some of the themes of The Last Jedi, for example, which some of those themes are actually kind of rooted in the prequels a bit, in a way that, like, actually, like, how the prequels should have focused on things. So it's there thematically, and again, just to kind of know the story, I think it's important. But yeah. So it's interesting for sure, to see this come together. And actually, something that is interesting that I like to see sort of like the precursor ships to like the ships that are in the original movies.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So like the Republic, they had like those the precursors to like the Star Destroyers, and also like the X-wing kind of things that have like the 3 wings instead of the 2, and like they're the things that kind of look like TIE Fighter-ish kind of thingies, so it's like it's interesting to see how that progression kind of goes from there. Yeah, it also actually, if you actually watch the Clone Wars show, there's actually really minute progressions within the seasons, so you can see like the very slow like change of the technology as it gets like
Oh,
closer and closer. So that's kind of interesting as
Oh.
well. Um, yes, that
cool.
was one thing. Is there anything else I wanted to mention? Um, oh, Grievous.
Mm,
Yeah, Grievous.
He's kind of lame in this movie.
yeah.
I was
He was
kind of thinking he was very cartoony.
Yeah, he was. But again, like for example, Maya and I we watched the original Clone Wars 2D animated thing that was made between the movies, I think in 2003, and that's the first instance where he shows up. And in that,
He's really scary.
yeah, he's like it's portrayed as like this is some super serious, ultra like badass kind of guy, and here, like firstly, yeah, he acts kind of cartoony, but then even when like you finally see him fight, it's like Obi-Wan just kind of like wrecks him like really easily,
Yeah.
and it's
Yep.
like
I mean, he shot him like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how he dies. He gets shot.
yeah, no, but even like when they're actually fighting with the lightsaber, he's like, oh shit, you're gonna see him with the 4 arms. It's gonna look really cool, but then he just like disarms him like really quickly, and you're like,
Yeah.
Wait, is
okay,
Grievous, is he CGI or is he like a puppet?
I'm sure he's CGI.
Oh, okay,
I
maybe
think
that's
everything at this point is probably CGI,
Yeah,
right?
even actually, even
I-
even R2D2 in this movie is completely CGI.
what?
Yeah.
No.
I
I was
mean,
sad
they
enough
couldn't
knowing
stop
you don't-
this-
Sorry. I was sad enough knowing that Yoda was not a puppet anymore.
Yeah.
Mm,
But,
I mean, with the moves that Yoda did in this movie, I don't think it would have.
Well, Yoda looks good.
I just
Because
imagining.
Yoda's Yoda.
I'm just imagining them like trying to do it. They just like have the Yoda puppet, just like throwing it across the room.
Okay, let's do that throw again and see if we can get it right this time.
But yeah, so
R2D2, because in the beginning you see him like getting like with the ship was going down and stuff. I don't think they would have been able to have done that with like the actual
and
thing.
like how he kind of like gets to like hover with his little like rocket jet kind of thingy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense, but it's But yeah, no, with Grievous, it's like because again, in the 2D show and in the 3D show, again the 3D show, you see him for like dozens of episodes. He doesn't die. He fights off lots of Jedi and lots of other opponents during all this time. So again, even though he's arguably he's a little bit more goofy in the 3D show than the 2D show, but he still like at least proves that like he's very intimidating in terms to actually fight against. Whereas here it's just Obi-Wan's just like boop boop boop, you're gone, and then he's like running away and chasing him with a weird wheel thingy. So
Oh yeah.
it's just kind of lame. It's like, ugh, man.
Dang it.
And then even Dooku like dies in the first like 15 minutes, and I mean
I
like
thought he was gonna die later.
yeah,
was
I mean
surprised.
it's kind of weird because like in Attack of the Clones, it kind of felt like he was like kind of not used that much. So you think, oh, because he's gonna get used more in Revenge of the Sith, but then he dies like in the very beginning. So it's like, okay, yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of weird choices with this, and yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, but ultimately, we all agree it's definitely the best of the prequels.
Yeah, definitely.
I overall would say this is a net positive for me. I can see where some people think it's a net negative. I see some people saying that like this is like one of their favorite, if not their favorite, Star Wars movies. I don't
I
see
can
how
understand that.
I guess, but especially like maybe if you were like growing up watching it.
Probably.
But
that
I
would-
just like again, just the dialogue, like
I feel like
really.
even if you were growing up watching, because a lot of the themes, I don't know if you would understand that well if you were a kid
yeah,
either.
that's true.
No,
as well.
but I'm just thinking in terms of like the action and like,
Oh,
ooh,
yeah.
Anakin's evil now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like,
Or I
even
just gave
even
a very
though
big sigh.
even though I think this is the best of the Star Wars prequels, I would still put every other Star Wars film higher than this.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
fairly close to a few of them, but I would still put every other one higher than this. I could see some people saying like some of the other ones are worse, but it's I don't know, when people say this is like their favorite Star Wars film, I'm like, really? I mean, then again, my favorite Star Wars film is probably an unorthodox choice, but anyway, it's whatever. It doesn't really matter. People get too damned worked up about this series. Ugh. Anyway.
It's probably because it's very ubiquitous, so like everyone has a piece of it at this point. But
Yeah.
Not only that, but it's a really old series too.
Yep. And now you're part of the piece as well.
Oh boy.
we won't be seeing the next Star Wars movie for a little while. But
A while.
Another fucking
little
year
while.
almost. Jesus.
yeah, I guess at least the time in between won't be as absurd as like the last one between this and like Attack of the Clones.
Well, no, it will be longer, but at least like it won't be like left on like a random story note that's to be continued, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
probably not.
When we eventually see Force Awakens, again, it'll probably be like maybe not in quite a year, but like honestly fairly close to a year from now, probably.
It'll
is the
be a
time of
while.
recording this.
Yeah.
It'll at least be like the start of a new kind of story and how that works. So that's something. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
I don't
For-
think that's much of a spoiler. but
yeah,
yeah.
I mean it's like the third most popular film ever. So you know, anyway, so that's the last you'll hear from us Star Wars related for quite a while, I guess.
Unless we reference it.
Oh
randomly.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure there'll probably be a few references here and there.
Yeah.
But-
So.
That's
I'm gonna
that's-
miss Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because we won't see him after this.
Yeah.
you can
Obi-Wan
watch the
Kenobi.
Clone Wars and see
What?
a lot more of him.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, okay.
with
Do it.
that note,
Do it.
do
Do it.
so long, folks.
Bye.